All right, so in this tutorial, I'm going to show you a simple method on how to light multiple rooms within a scene. In this particular case, we have this image right here where we're going to be lighting a dining room, a foyer, another back room, and a kitchen all off to the side. And I'm going to show you how simple it is by using this simple blend mode, but we're also going to be doing some composite work. I'm going to be on one flash, and that is the Godox V1 with the ML-CD15 diffuser. And I have another video I'm going to link to at the end of this video showing you why I'm actually starting to use this on every shoot as opposed to just the bare flash from the Godox V1. But flash power is going to vary. I'm typically going to be at least a half power to a full power unless the room is tiny. A big open space like this, I'm running half power. I think I was running a half power for everything. So let's get into Lightroom right now and I'll show you how we prep these images for Photoshop. All right, here we are in Lightroom, and this actually was a demo in a previous video that I had just released, but I wanted to walk you through step by step on how to actually edit this in Photoshop using that lighten blend mode. This is super easy. So before we can merge all these images into Photoshop, there's a few quick things that we need to do in Lightroom just to balance everything out to make our compositing a lot easier in Photoshop. So the first thing I like to do is take that ambient layer, and again, you want to make sure that your exposure is pushed right of center. I like to bring those shadows up a little bit too and drop those highlights down a little bit, and then change my profile to standard. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to copy and then copy, so then I can move to my next shot, which I'm going to rack up that shutter so I can at least, I'm controlling the exposure on these lights here, and I'm controlling the window view. Those are the two hot spots that you're going to need to focus on. This was the flash pop above the camera. I wasn't reaching too high up above the camera, maybe, you know, just over my head a little bit, and then we're just going to paste these settings in. And again, I want to bring that flash power up a little bit. And I'm going to leave it right there. I'm going to leave it as shot because I had my camera set to auto white balance. I'm going to be consistent. Doesn't look like it's too orange or yellow to me. And you notice I'm bringing that up about over a stop and a half over what I did in camera, which is completely fine. And now I want to copy these settings because I had to adjust that. So then what I did is I walked over and I did a flash pop in this room. And let's paste those settings in. And again, I want to watch that room. I'm only focusing on this room right here. Don't worry about that shadow. I'm going to show you how to fix that in Photoshop. All right, let's move to our composite now. Now I want to light this room right here. And the reason we're doing a composite is because we're going to try to avoid this chandelier, shadows that are caused by just a flash pop above the camera. So let's paste our settings in. So remember, I don't care about this area. I'm lighting this spot over here. This looks really nice over here, so we're good. Let's move to this side now. And now we want to brighten this up to where this side looks good, and it does. Maybe we can bring those highlights down just a little bit more. Bump those shadows up. And now we can push the exposure up just a little bit more. And that looks good. Now we're going to walk into the kitchen around the corner and pop a flash. Let's paste our settings in. And that looks good. We got a nice clean window view there, bringing those highlights down a little bit. Back it out. Remember, we're only concerned about what's in the frame here, and I'll show you why when we turn this to lighten mode. It's amazing. And if you've watched any of my other tutorials, you know exactly what we're going to be doing. But every situation is different. That's why I like to have multiple tutorials on this stuff, so you can take and, you're going to have similar situations where you'll be like, oh, I remember how to do that. In this shot is this little room over here. So we're just going to paste our settings in. That looks good to me. Maybe bring those highlights down a little bit more. And that's it. Now we're going to hold down Command and click on all my 5 stars here. And right click, edit in, open as layers in Photoshop. All right, once all your layers have been loaded in, this is quite a bit, but that's okay. And now again, this is only for this type of lighting situation, right? And it really doesn't take that long. On site, I think I was probably under less than a minute if you would have timed me to do this. Ambient layer, rack that shutter up, flash pop above the camera, walk over here, boom, 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 boom. Just a matter of walking around the space here, and then I'm done. Then I pick my tripod up and go. Because I've done this so much, I know exactly what flash power I need to be at. Yes, I double check every image real quick to make sure, okay, that looks good, good, before I pick the tripod up and move. But look, I'm just going to show you when we highlight these. We got to come up here to edit, and we have to auto align these. I say do this with this many layers. It's just safe to do an auto align. Let's start with the top image. This was the ambient layer. Let's toggle that off. We got the flash pop above the camera. We're going to toggle that off. We have this flash pop. We're going to toggle that off. We're going to work on these two images right here. So we want to select the top one. Come down here, layer mask, Command I to invert it. I'm going to use my gradient tool and make sure that normal is selected and opacity is at 100. Somewhere in front of myself, click and drag. And that's it. So what I want to do now, just to make my life easier, I'm going to highlight both of these, right click, and then come up here to merge layers. So that's just going to group that into one layer. Okay, so now once we've grouped that into one layer, let's bring that up right to here. We're going to turn this one back on, bring this room, this image, let's see, which one is it? Yeah, it's this one. We're going to bring that up, turn that into lighten mode. And if you toggle that on and off, we can see what that did. That lit that really well. I like that. Now we're going to come down here, grab this one, bring this up above. What is this one? The kitchen shot. We're just going to turn that to lighten mode. Or no, this one might have been... Nope, that is the kitchen. That looks good. Come down here to the very last one. Bring that up. Let's see, we toggle that. Let's see, if we turn that to lighten mode, which one was that? Yeah, the back room there. And now we can turn on the flash pop above the camera. Do the same thing. Lighten mode with that. Look at that. That just lightens up the foreground there. We can drop that opacity. You want to just try to even that out. And I like to just toggle that on and off just to make sure. That looks really good to me. And now we can turn on our ambient layer. I'm really not crazy about this one, but, and you know what? We might not even need that, but that'll actually, what it'll do is if we notice it without it, we have some shadowing going on here. This actually isn't a shadow on the ceiling. That's actually paint, like touch-ups or whatever, so that's got to leave it. We will fix this shadow. Let's try to turn our ambient layer back on, change that to luminosity mode, and then drop the opacity to 50%. It typically does a good job of softening those shadows up. This one, not a big deal, but I am going to fix that one. We actually might be able to fix this one too. Those are the two that after you toggle them on and off, you can kind of see that that's really, you know, because there's going to be shadows here with the chandelier. But what I'd like to do also is I want to bring back my lights so they're not so blown out. Even though they're not that noticeable, we're going to use a layer mask, leave it white, make sure black is selected, get our brush tool, and I'm using my right bracket to make that bigger. And all I'm going to do is paint back over these lights because we had such a nice even flash layer that we can paint over our lights. Oh, that was the flash underneath. That actually looks good when we brighten that back up. And then same thing with this room in here and that far room. Okay. Now what we can do, watch this, we're going to use some content aware. Let's highlight and circle that shadow and then just hit generate a fill and then hit generate. And again, I'm in Photoshop beta. And I do believe in order to be able to use this feature, you have to be hooked up to Wi-Fi. So be mindful of that. If you're on the road, like to edit in your car, make sure you have some sort of way to connect to Wi-Fi if you believe you're going to be doing this type of editing. But let's see how well it does. And this is real time. Nice. See, it did. It got rid of it. And so you have 3 variations of whatever it created. And that looks good. So if we toggle that on and off, that hid that shadow very well. We could even try it over here on this shadow. And again, you're thinking, wow, this is way too much work, way too much time. I could have probably figured out a way to blend that shadow out. And there is another way with using masking and using another image to do that. But sometimes this actually is easier for me, sometimes. Not all the time. But again, this is real time, so you can see how fast it is there. That looks good to me, and we can just kind of mess with that. Bring this down, so we toggle that on and off. All right, so the next step is what we need to do is flatten this image. And let's Command S to save it. Bring it right back into Lightroom. Okay, I'm going to hit it with my Interior Final Bump 2. And that's just another preset that I created. I'm adjusting things. I like this. I'm going to take the black slider, hold down Option. You know, see I got certain clips and some blacks. I don't want it that far. Right there. But there you go. There's your final image. Leave me a comment if you have any questions. Hit that thumbs up button. Hit that subscribe button. Tutorials are coming out all the time. Thanks for watching.